we have found an angle which we think has merit. Now we've got to go away and substantiate that with a bit more than perception. Excuse me while I twiddle with my slides. Great website that. Have any of you seen this website?
No. Never been on.
Absolute belter, isn't it? It's a bit prettier than most of my others, it's got to be said. I'm actually quite pleased with that one. Obviously I didn't design it. You don't get another break, you already had the break. Okay, so let's look at some ways to research, because at the end of the day, the thing's got to make money or lose money depending on whether it's backing or laying, and there are lots of ways to verify that without necessarily paying very much money. So the first one is a dear friend. I would suggest this is a starting point rather than an end point. So for instance, if you research a system solely in the Racing Post, it's not impossible. It's going to be difficult to charge for an ebook because that information is freely available, right? If you tailor that information and put some of your own stuff in it and make it unique, that's fine. Alternatively, if you sold that information as a kind of a black box service, a tipping or a membership site, not member site service, where again it wasn't immediately obvious that you'd used the data on the Racing Post solely, that would be fine as well, I think. But nevertheless, Racing Post is a brilliant website to look at. Excuse me 1 second while I pop this on. Right, so the Racing Post is my home page. I've got over my initial dislike of it. It's a good bit better these days. Still got one or two rough edges. What were you moaning about last night?
No results. Once week to the other.
You can't get the results and the race card on the same page. So. Right, so we're going to have a look at this section, statistics. Easy for me to say. And in this section, who's not been to the Racing Post stats section? Right, so you're all kind of vaguely familiar with it. I'll show you how I use it, because there's some quite big numbers down this right-hand column here in the plus and minus. Although McCoy, look, is already minus £35 down. You'd still have him on your side, wouldn't you? I wanted to dig a couple of guys out from here. There's a chap in the trainers section who I stumbled across. Name of Honeyball. Yes, Anthony Honeyball, that's right. I mean, if you look this season, you'll see there's quite a few. First of all, it's summer jumps, right? So a lot of the data might not be as relevant as it would be for the winter. But a lot of the up-and-coming jockeys and trainers, especially trainers, cut their teeth in the summer jumping season. Right? So this chap's been around for a couple of seasons now. Where's he gone? Maybe it was last year. Just quickly look at last season's data. There he is. That's him. So last year, he's only got a small string. Clearly, he had just the 48 runners, but nearly a quarter of them won. And not only that, 5 of them were second, and another 10 were third or fourth. Right? What's that? I can't do the maths on that one. 26. Thank you. So well over half were in the first 4, and this is a guy that most people have never heard of. Right? If you can catch these guys on the up and start factoring their performance in, if you look in more detail at this particular chap, what are we looking for? So he's had a run on the flat there. This probably wouldn't be his natural. Right, here we go. I've got to do that, have I? Oh, that's the last 14 days. Right, so the statistics. Thank you. Gavin's absolutely right. The racing post size stinks. It's horrible. And you can see that, you know, I mean, he hasn't got a lot of runners, but clearly his local tracks are Taunton and Wincanton, right? And actually, they're places. Well, one of them's. But I'd suggest they're both places to avoid him, because this is, you know, he's had a big prize winner at Wincanton. That's clearly a skewed stat. And if you want, I've misplaced it now, but if you want trainer stats for the flats, you'll find plenty of those. I suspect he researched using this alone, actually, and that's why, you know, if you haven't gone to any extra trouble to add value to the product, if it's good information, you can still sell it as a member site, but you shouldn't just give it as an ebook, because people will see through you very quickly. Anyway, so this is a great starting place. That's one trainer who I'd definitely be keeping on the right side of. Sheena West is another interesting one, and I mean, this guy has a lot more runners and his win strike rate is abysmal. He clearly had a couple of big winners, but I would steer clear of Barnes. But these two chaps at the top, and Chap S's, definitely look like trainers to keep on the right side of. And this is the kind of stuff that you can share with your blog readers as trainers to follow, or you can create a little simple system with this sort of stuff in it. It's a great starting place. I just wanted to show you an angle that no one talked about, actually, and that I've never seen a product about, is about breeding. Right, and people are probably going to be too lazy to spend a lot of time digging into pedigrees, but if you do that and give them the information, there are some clear preferences that sires and less so kind of dam sires pass on to their progeny. Right, there are some clear profitable trends here, and no one is doing this stuff. It's a lot of effort, I think, to research it, but you could do very well with this. And the one I was going to look at was presenting. Here he is. If we look at the last, I thought you could do the last 5 seasons. Let's just call the horse up. So that's his race record. In actual fact, as many jumps sires are, he was a flat horse, a stayer on the flat, or a middle distance horse on the flat. Right. Okay. So you say you want jumps. Let's have a look in the last year at the performance of Presenting's progeny. This might take a minute to come back. Yeah, okay, so there's lots of pages. I'm pretty sure there's a way, and I apologise for, there we go, that's it. I'm not very familiar with the sire pages, so forgive me for that. Let's just go with that. You can see his top performers there, and the full race record. A certain horse called Niche Market here did us all a turn when he won the Irish National. I don't know if you saw, actually, we got a comment from the owners of Niche Market on the blog, hidden down in the comments, saying that they recognised the Irish National as a strong trends race as well, and knew that their horse was a good fit, and had backed him accordingly. So it's nice that, you know, the spread of both geegeez and nag 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 is, nag nag nag's not very old, geegeez very young, but they're getting out there into not quite the establishment, but they are known places to go, and your blog sites can also very quickly get to that level. This is the one I wanted, it's progeny stats, right? So there's a breakdown by preferences of this horse, and he's clearly a jump sire. I mean, the prize money is ridiculous. If you use a tool like Racing Systems Builder, and I will show you this shortly, you can search by sire in Racing Systems Builder, and this is a starting point, because it will tell you those sires that have enough runners to be a meaningful sample size, and then you can go away and do further digging with the more functional tools. But presenting's definitely a guy to keep on your side if you're interested in sire stats, and breeding is definitely an underserved niche. Definitely, there's a market for that. Right, Adrian Massey's site. Every time I come to this site, I have real difficulty finding the bit where the tool is that you can use to analyse. It shouldn't be as hard. It's on. Is it on this page?
Yes, I've got the side.
No, you see, it's not on this page. It's on. It's on favourite stats. So you've got to go to the favourites, adrianmassey.com, and then find the favourite stats page, which is a really strange place for it. And I'm sure it's deliberate because he's probably hosting this on his own server, and if everybody used it, it would die. And then there's this button to. There's a lot of information here already, and actually I found a very interesting handicap chase system which I've got on my hard drive somewhere, which I might use at some point. It's about low-weighted horses and handicap chasers over distances. Do very well. Anyway, let's play around with the custom report. This is quite a functional tool. These are all the variables that there are, like favourite, year, month, day of the week, so on and so forth. And you can select and deselect these to play around with ideas. So I got one that here's one I prepared earlier. So what you might know about me is fillies' performance in races against girls' performance against the boys, especially in higher class races, is not as good as the boys' performance, right? And there should be no surprise from that, because boys and girls don't even race in human terms, and the same sort of physical superiorities manifest themselves at the top level. At the lower levels, the ladies can compete amply well, but at the top end, you very, very rarely get a lady runner in the Derby, for instance, because I think did Balanchine, there was the Godolphin team were toying with running a super filly in the Derby a few years ago. I can't remember what it was. I think in the end she ran in the Oaks, which was the right choice. Anyway, okay, so we're gonna choose fillies who are favourite. So we've selected favourite. Let's take all of the years, so we've got a good sample size, all of the months, all days. We're going to take all of the race distances. Doesn't matter about, we're not interested in national hunt, we're just going to go with the flat here. Race class we don't care about. Filly's favourite. Number of runners we don't care. Course we don't care. Starting price, right, we'll take only fillies who started at 7-2 or shorter, because I think there might be merit in a product around laying horses low. Why have we got 9-2? I think this. Has anyone been to Massey lately? Do you know if this has changed? I think this starting price one.
I know that there's if you go further up the sheet, you've got to click on the horses because it says sexes of horses in race.
There's the sex sound.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yeah. So I just want races where. No, I think did I not? Right, you're absolutely right. I beg your pardon. Okay, so
Actually, no.
You want
I want those two, don't I? I'm not interested in male only. I want open races. In fact, I'll probably just want that one. Let's try that. You're absolutely right. Okay, finishing position we don't care about. The age. Oh, there's the sex one. So we just want the girls. Just give us the girls. So there's loads of things here that you can look at, and the great thing is that you choose a couple of them, and then when you get the results data back, it shows you the breakdown for each of these, so you can refine your research. It's pretty useful. I don't think we're not interested in any of the rest of this stuff. Right, use the estimate, because we're looking for a lay here. We want to know what the estimated Betfair price is, and give us as many as you can, and give us a breakdown. Right. This will take about 20 minutes. It doesn't take long, I hope. Anyone know any good jokes? Obviously I don't.
How has this guy managed to keep this site free for so long? There's stacks of information here.
He's a hobbyist. He isn't really a horse racing fan. He's a software engineer. Yeah, he loves the numbers. He loves playing around with the data, but he's not. He wouldn't be a.
He's going to take it daily, isn't he?
Well, his software does, and he tweaks the software. There we are. Right, so we've gone back to the beginning of January, and that's the data. You see the right-hand column where it says that's the estimated profit and loss, just with those three parameters. So we've got ladies who are favourite and 7-2 or shorter, or it might have been 9-2 or shorter, top end of the market anyway, right? And you can see over time, you'd have pretty much done it in. You'd have lost. What's that, 143 points over 4 and a bit years, right? So that's with three really basic parameters and a lot of selections there, right? So you can probably refine that to narrow down the number of selections. Well, strike rate's going to be good because you're dealing with favourites, right? But you're dealing with favourites who are overbet and underpriced. That's the key. So you're losing. You see this total here. You're losing 3.4% at Betfair odds, right? Which means if you're laying them, you're making 3.4, which is not a lot, but on turnover, that's going to be okay. And as a starting point for a system, that's not terrible. If you further look at the breakdown, you've got the annual breakdown, and you can see that in the last 3 years, particularly this year so far, it's done horribly. You can see actually in the summer, it seems to perform much better, and my suspicion is that on the all-weather, they may not be very good, the girls with the sand in their face. That's just a suspicion, that's untested, but you probably can test this on here. Day of the week, I think, is immaterial, and time of day, I think, is almost preposterous, but there might be a way to factor it in. Distance might be interesting. See, at sprint distances, they do okay. Middle distances, not so well. Extreme distances, okay. There were some I wanted to draw your attention to, which were last finishing position. Let's see if we can find that one. The starting price is going to be interesting. See, anything 11-4 or shorter. See, if we lost this 3-1 to 9-2, we'd have made a chunk more money, right? Because the ones at the bigger prices that we don't really want to lay anyway, they're winning sufficiently often to pay their way, whereas the shorter ones are losing nicely, so that's interesting. Finishing position in its most recent race, right, that was one thing that we could look at. We can see that if they finished in the first three, they were over bet. So that's, always remember, right, the general betting public goes with the most obvious things. If they see a 1 or 2 or a 3 by a horse for its last run, it's usually going to be over bet. So that's always something to bear in mind. Number of days since it last ran. Horses tend to do better if they ran very recently, and then do badly if they run for some distance. So if we said, what do you reckon? Ran 10 days or more ago? Should we go with that? Does that look reasonable? You still awake?
Yeah.
Does that look reasonable?
Yes.
Okay. This one's interesting as well, the number of how over-raced the horse is. This is something that I've been meaning to play with in Racing Systems Builder for a while. They call it overexposure. Some trainers just run their horses and run them, and unsurprisingly, like everyone else, they get knackered, right? So I think there's some. It's quite interesting that there seems to be sort of a curve there, where if they've had a few races in the last 3 months, they underperform, then they get race fit, and then they get knackered, and that's quite a clear curve there. So that's something you can definitely play with. There was one more I wanted to point out. No, that might be it. Okay, so let's just go back and we'll play with those two stats. Just add those two in and see what the final reckoning is. So we want to go back and we're going to make last round 10 days or more ago. You may find this before me. Shout if you do. There you go. Right. There we go, thank you. Right, so we deselect them all, then we're going to say 10 days or more. Might have been easier just to unclick.
These are David. No, David. They were profitable.
Were they?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Well spotted. You are still awake?
Just measure number of races there at the bottom.
Sorry?
Number of races, just
Number of races, yeah. So what did we say? We said there was this bit in the middle where they were okay. I think it was
4, 5 and 6.
4, 5 and 6.
4, not 3 as well.
No.
Okay. I believe you. Oh, look at that. Right, none. 1, 2, 3, or 7 or more. Let's just go with those. See what that does. So we were showing 96.6% return on investment, which equates to a 3.4% profit if you were laying them. This is going to take another 20 minutes. So apart from those two, has anybody got any good jokes?
Are you going to cut out the summer months on those as well, just to see the weather, or
Oh yeah. Well, we could further refine it. That's
they will profit through?
yeah. Well, let's see how we get on with this, and then. I mean, it's only an example, so you know. But what you can see is that you can start with a pretty basic concept, and playing around with Adrian's tool, you can rapidly come to something that's a bit more marketable and actually a bit more usable for you. You know, this is quite a simple system, right? And it's over 5 years. It's showing a good profit, right? So let's see how it got on over the period. Where are we? Oh, that's looking more like it, isn't it? Right. So that's a loss of 11.5% at Betfair odds, 26.5 grand. Right. So if you were laying to 100 quid, right, you could expect to make. Well, there's going to be a difference of a pip between the back and lay prices, but take that pip out, and you could expect to make over that period to 100 quid. 25k, something like that. Okay, that's probably a saleable product. Right?
we left before as well. Probably
Yeah,
more
yeah,
profit.
exactly. I think we did that, did we?
No, we should.
Didn't I? Oh, I should have done that. That was a mistrick. You're absolutely right. Yeah. So you know, we could still refine this and look at the number of runners. Right, we're talking about roughly one a day. Do you think 2009? Obviously, we're only halfway through. Roughly one a day. So if you're looking for a low laying service, as somebody may or may not be, right? I mean, that is already a product. You do it black box, you do it as a tipping service, but there's a product there, right, with a monthly subscription, and then it's just about packaging it correctly and taking it to the market. Okay, it's not difficult, this stuff. It's just about it's finding a profitable angle and then how you bring it to the market, and we'll get to that this afternoon. But like I say, it doesn't need to be difficult. The kind of things that Gavin and David and I do, and that you might want to do as well, where if you're going to do an ebook, very often it pays to demonstrate that the material is good up front of the results being whatever the results are. So if you're doing a research one, you definitely do an ebook with it. With something like this, you do a tipping service, a membership site, or email or SMS, or a combination of those things. Again, on the monthly basis, I mean that February through May, April, that's abysmal performance on a big number of stats. So, you could kind of double up maybe in those months. You could go to town with that a bit. And at the end of the year, I mean, I suspect January is a bit of an outlier actually, because if you look at the period, say November or even September, but certainly November through to is that April? That's averaging about 75%. So your return on investment, 25%. That's a lot of money on a lot of bets.
Has the Phillies allowance changed?
Sorry?
Phillies allowance has it changed during the year?
Right. That's interesting. So that might be a factor.
Last year.
I know the age does.
What's interesting then is normally when they perform well, which is end of the season, they're not performing well.
Yeah, well, not under these
Not under those
circumstances.
circumstances.
Absolutely. Okay, anyway, so I mean, I think you all see how you can use Massey's tool. And
I'll stop there. Oh, it's only one room. Sorry.
yeah, it's a great free tool. Obviously, if you wanted to do it by course, you have to be very careful about, you know, unrepresentative data
Look
sizes.
at great layers though there. 152%.
Yeah, but a small amount of
I know,
bets.
but it's still.
You're right. It's strike rate of nearly 1 in 2. Pick their closer place, hey?
Well,
Okay, so that was Adrian Massey. Bear with me while I pause my doodah. So we looked at the racing post, Adrian Massey, horse race base. This is an interesting tool, and I am very interested to learn about this one. This is David is an expert in this. Anybody else used horse race base? Right, anybody ever heard of it? Okay, well, you'll be interested in this one then, just as I am. So I'm going to.
this is where his marketing pro isn't very good at all, which is such a shame for him.
Yeah, but,
Talked to you
well,
about-
absolutely,
talked to you
yeah,
before about
yeah.
this.
Well, his loss is other people's gains. You know, it's very corporate spirited. Right, prize for the first person to find my horse race base. Click. And that's geegeez. Let's use this one.
This close.
His marketing is there.
There we go. Right. Blimey, what's all that then?
That's just his front page. That's,
Why don't you come and share the benefit of your knowledge and experience with all of us, especially me.
as Matt said with this, it's basically a donation site where you can pay £5 a month, gain access to all of the databases that he has, 10 to 11-year-old databases, and basically variables. It's basically like Adrian Massey and such in the principle. Integrate all the variables that you want to integrate together and create a system for it. I mean, I'll just log into it. So
Everybody making note of his login.
because you can't. Unfortunately, the password is in stars. Thank God.
This is a donation site. Right?
It's-
So, David can donate for all of us.
There's a caps lock on.
Caps
It is.
lock, sure.
Sorry. So there's a couple of areas. I mean, the first one that I use mainly is today's racing, which you can go in and basically have a look at each of the races using different criteria. So, for instance, if we pick Carlisle 245, and what you can do is you can use it as a race card, basically as it says on there, his ratings, form analysis, going, track field size, which can be a handy one to have a look at. And it brings it up in that format. So you can see from there that Rowan Lodge has run at the track twice, won once and placed once. You can then actually go into the individual horses and a form database comes up, and the good one for me is something called Profiler.
What response times normally? Is it quite
Quicker than this,
Yeah, okay.
which is unusual. The profile normally comes up straight away.
Might be my arcane laptop.
So, and what you can see is he highlights all of today's in yellow, so you can immediately see what the horse's preferences are. Which Ian does it by lots of different variables as well. Some of the key points there would be the rating of 61 to 70. It's 1.5 from 22. It doesn't actually break it down between sellers and claimers, which is one of the only problems of it. You know, you would have to actually go and run a query on that to see how it did within that. But you can. The different variables, if you wanted to, you can run a query from there for this horse only. So So it brings you up the page and it says on the side what the existing system criteria are. So we can say we've picked Roan Lodge. If we then use what he calls as a quick set, and it brings them all up in this sort of format. And what you're doing is you're just clicking which one of the variables you want to look at. So the first column is today, last run, second last run, third last run, and all sorts of different variables within that. It's endless. It's absolutely endless. So we can look at that and click claim a seller. I mean, for £5 a month. If you wanted to donate this for £5 a month, he'll let you have full access to the whole lot of it. I mean, obviously, I've started to donate more than that because I use it on a more regular basis now. Because I don't think it's fair to the guy to just give him £5 a month. So we can click claim a seller. Go. So basically, we just want to look at the claimers and the sellers, and then you run the query from there. Again, this is slower than normal now. So it's running 18 times in a claimer and seller. If you've got 10,000 and something there, he advises that you don't run the query. Because obviously his database would then grind to a halt. Yeah, you know what I mean? So we can run the query from there. And it gives you the number of bets, the number of wins, strike rate, profit and loss. So as you can see, that horse makes 33.75 profit in claimers and sellers.
Place 16 out of 18 times.
Yes.
Sorry, this horse won, I put this up as a lay, didn't qualify because it's a big price, but this horse won in a claimer at Beverley.
Stall one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
And it's
a trick where high numbers were massively favoured. So,
Oh, but that was a place lay as well that day.
yeah, that is a definite.
It's
that's,
out.
That's its class.
and it's out today in a claimer.
What did you say that winning house was?
Yeah.
Yes. So you can see there's endless things to do with. I mean, if we go actually just into the systems builder itself, which is exactly the same layout as you run a query on a horse, we can pick. Well, let's have a look. Going from a favourite system, let's have a look at the all-weather. So it's the race category. Let's have a look at. We'll do claimers and sellers again. And we'll have a look at the favourites record in claimers and sellers on the all-weather. Sorry about the screen. Go. So we can look at all-weather only. You can do the variables to anything you want to. We'll just look at clear favourites, not joint or core favourites, and we'll have a look in claimers and sellers. And we'll run the query. It's quite a lot of runners, obviously, from a period of time. So it actually made a substantial loss. That in favourites in claimers and sellers on the all-weather. The one thing that the system does let you do, though, is if we go back to the builder side of it, is it's got a digger feature here, which is something I'm just sort of getting to grips with at the minute. And what it allows you to do is to do two other criteria, and it'll dig down for you and see what those criteria are. So for instance, you could look at track on there and distance. So you can look at race distance and the track. And we'll go. And what it'll do is it then breaks them down for you. It's only from 2007, but you can go back to the timeline at the end, and it'll give you from 2003 upwards. So I mean, as you can see, Wolverhampton 1 mile, half a furlong favourites in claimers and sellers give a profit of 24 points. And you could run the timeline from that at a strike rate of 52%. So if we run the and there's your breakdown per year from that. You can see the last 3 years have been profitable, before that weren't, which
They relay the service.
yes, which might have something to do with it.
There's no banded racing there anymore.
No, which will probably have a lot more to do with it as well.
I mean, they're small The small data samples.
Yes, but I mean, it's a good strike rate though for a small data sample.
Yeah,
You know, it is a small data sample. You want something bigger than that to have a look at. I just basically show how to run through it. So if you wanted to have a look at a larger data sample by each year, you can do once you've dug down underneath to those sort of factors within it. It's just there's also something else which he calls hot races on here, which I was talking to you about yesterday.
This sounds great.
This is basically what it is. He looks at each race, each day that the horses ran in, and how many winners came from that race and how many places came from that race. So we can see the first one there at 3 o'clock at Leicester. From 17 runs, there was 5 winners and 12 places from that race on that day. Now you could look again and say the horse finished 10th at 12th. So, you know, there's a question mark whether how far was it beaten by that day, but certainly in something to have a look at. Let's have a look at. So that's it must be out. Is it out? Today? That's his last race. Come on. Where's the back button on? Is that the back button, Matt?
It's opening in a new tab.
Alright, just close the tab.
Just go to the previous tab.
That one.
Yeah.
You can do this as well by today. Obviously, yes. So you will find out if there's any runners running today. Minimum place, you could have a look at horses that finished in the first 3. You know. So we'll have a look at that as well. Within the last 30-day category, you could break it down to national hunt, flat, all weather again. Handicaps, non-handicaps. We'll just leave it as that and we'll press go and see what's out there. So those are horses that run in today. So as you can see, there's not exactly a lot of hot races there today, because I mean, 13 runs, 2 wins, 5 places, that's the top one today. You'd probably leave that well alone today.
Well, he won in field of 15 that day.
Yes. So, you know, yeah.
We want to be on again.
Yeah.
I wonder how these fare, because did anybody else get the idea that here's a product, just kind of go here every day?
Yeah.
Horses on the website.
I mean, there's one further down that's 222, isn't there, somewhere? Bob's the Wizard. From that race has been 2 wins and 2 places. So, and you can break it down by anything, Matt, as it says. So, you could actually look at maiden races if you wanted to as an option. You know, you're talking about maiden races within it. You can just have a look at the maiden qualifiers from the day and see what possibilities there were for that. You know. Cross that tab out. Cross that tab out. I mean, basically this, it's endless for it, really. I mean, if we'll have a look at another horse just for out of interest.
Can you save data off this? Can you actually save it?
You can download it. You can certainly download it into. I think it's.
Is it Excel or something?
Yeah, I'm sure he allows it. I'm sure he allows to dump from within it. I've never tried to do it myself, man. So, I mean, you can take the data straight across the Word. You know, you can take that data from straight across into Word format. Just highlight what you want and dump it in as unformatted text. And I found if you go through Safari, it keeps actually it keeps the formatting as well. Well, if you use Internet Explorer, it tends just to jumble it all over the page. With Safari, it just gives it nice straight columns.
Just mindful of the web-based ones, one of those.
To dump
You've got your idea there.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. But if you can, I mean, I always think it's funny that with Microsoft's browser, you can't take data straight from there and put it in Microsoft's Word, right? But with Safari, which is an independent third-party browser, you can take data from there and dump it straight into a Microsoft product. If you can put it in Word, odds are it will go into fields in Excel as well. So.
Yeah. Well, look, take a look at Tranquil Tiger. So it's 17 from 19. Yeah.
Cows getting excited.
So did I. was annoyed with myself as well. Considering its profile was absolutely perfect for that race. So you saw from that it ran a listed race last time out. Now, if we go further down, have a look at its record in listed races. It's won 5 from 9 in listed races. On good to firm ground, it's won 6 from 10. So if you combine those, you can actually combine those 2 factors using the run query if you wanted to. So we can have a look. Well, quickly run a query. So from this page you can pick out any variables for the horse that you wanted to, and then run the query from that, which is, I think it's an extremely strong tool really for what he asks for it, which is ridiculous. So what did we say? We said going, didn't we? And we want major races, because this is the way he sorts it. It's a little bit funny, some of the little headings are quite funny what he uses, like major races he uses for group and listed, and not the race category, which is, or race class, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But once you get used to how he operates, it's... So we'll have a look on good to firm ground in listed races. Go. And run the query on that. There's five times it run under those conditions. And it's 1-4 from 5. With a profit of 10 points. So you can see the possibilities for using this. Well, that's how I use it anyway. So
I mean, you knew that horse, those were that horse's optimal conditions, but if you put in a wider query and said, give me all the going conditions, you could get a breakdown and you could see from that horse's...
yeah, you could do a digger then.
Yeah.
You could do a digger then. You could put Tranquil Tiger, put all the conditions in. Well, you could say when it runs in listed races and then dig down by track and by or going, whatever, and then it'll dig down and give you the performance from there.
So if you didn't already know that, you wouldn't have to look on the horse and select each going or each parameter individually.
No, you do that wider one like we did for the favourites in Sellers and Claimers at Lingfield, or you could do for all-weather tracks or national hunt tracks. You could pick out individual tracks from the track. You know, use the digger function again to dig down and say, right, I want Claimers and Sellers, but I want it from all the all-weather tracks or all the national hunt tracks, and then dig down from there. And then use it as that sort of system. But certainly an interesting tool to use and sort of... I'll have to ask him, I'll tell him I've got a sales pitch for him today. I'll tell him I've done a sales pitch for him.
Are there any questions, guys? Do you think it's a good tool? Do you think you can get some value out of that?
Definitely could. You just need a couple of hours playing around.
The options are endless with it. This is the point of it, and you know it's quite user friendly considering some of the other ones that's on the market. I mean, Proform's extremely expensive, and it's a difficult one to get used to, and all the variables that you've got to use. Well, this is fairly straightforward. You tick a box, and then go on from there and run a query or whatever you want to, and also give you a breakdown of each way as well, which is quite handy sometimes. You can put a staking plan into it as well if you wanted to. So if you run a variable staking plan, you could put that in. So, which is handy.
You could make money from horse racing with this, couldn't you?
Yes. Yes.
Do that.
What do you want to do that for? You know, I mean, like, you know, I use it just for the profiling side of things alone. Because that page where he's got all the information and you can just dig down from all the variables. The only thing he probably doesn't do for each horse is the draw, which is a shame. You know, you can't actually see from each individual horse if it was drawn in the bottom third or the top third.
Well, I've got a tool and I'll show them.
That does that.
I think it does that.
Right.
But yeah, it's not in the same app, so much better.
As a fairly reasonably priced, well, as a cheap tool, this is ideal. And I just stumbled across it. It was he actually had this free for the first 2 years he had it on the market. And then it became a donation site only. I think he's a hobbyist like massive though.
It's great.
Great.
Yep.
Okay, any questions?
Brilliant, thank you.
Thanks a lot.
No problems.
I'm going to sign up. Good tool, eh? Everybody going to race home and sign up to Horse Race Pace? I don't know about you, but I had about 4 product ideas during that short demonstration. So that's pretty good. I especially like that hot races one. There must be mileage in that.
There must be something to look at.
That's fantastic. Thanks a lot, David. I might just leave that running actually. Right. So that's what did you say that was? You can get away with donating a fiver, but
Yeah,
maybe 15 quid would
15.
be
I
reasonable.
mean, if you're on it infrequently, then just give him a fiver a month. He's happy with that. I mean, if you're only using it once or twice a week, then do that. I mean, I'm on every day, so mine's going to gradually increase as it goes up. But if you're not using the system builder all the time, it doesn't mind you going on and using today's tools or looking at the profiles of the horses for absolutely, for £5, that's it. If you're using the system builder on a regular basis, I think he's wants you to pay more for it.
And that's entirely reasonable. Fair usage.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got another one now. This is these tools have prices on them. They're hugely reasonable, according to me. This is pgmracing.co.uk. Is the website of Professor Peter May, who some of you may be aware of. He is another hobbyist. He is the guy is a genius mathematician. It loses me very early on in some of his summaries, and I try and hang on to the shirt tails for the rest of them, and usually fail. This is his website. It's had 154,000 hits, so people know about this place. You can see his new summer jumping guide. He's selling for £3. I mean, these are the prices this guy charges. There's great content on here, and the products cost you nothing. The one I want to show you, you can see there's quite a few. There's software ones as rating products. I want to show you the draw analyzer, which I pay 35 quid. I think I paid 20 for it last year, so it's gone up a little bit, and it's still hugely reasonable. I asked Mr. May, Professor May, if I could borrow the findings from his draw analyzer, and he was good enough to let me. So if you've got flat racing profiles, you know that a big part of it is the draw analysis, and that's this tool. What you can do, and my starting point was, I selected, there are various criteria here, right? So you can select by odds, and I put a maximum price of 20 to 1 in. I wanted all the years and all the going, but I also did a breakdown of good and firmer and good to soft and softer. And I selected all tracks, which is an option, but you can go by track and distance, and where they position the stalls as well, obviously. Right, so if we take, let's have a look at our old friend Beverley, 5 furlongs, good and firmer, stalls, high numbers against the rail, that's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
In fact, let's put any price in there. And what it does is it tells you on the left-hand side, it tells you by stall number, and on the right-hand side, it tells you by the stall's position relative to the highest stall. So if it was a 9-horse race, H minus 0 would be 9, H minus 1 would be 8, H minus 2 would be 7, and so on. Right? So you can. So as far as I'm aware, this is the only draw tool that will tell you relative high and low positions, because it's got that H minus function in it, and it's a really useful tool for looking at the draw. You might write to Professor May and ask him if he's got any data for Irish flat racing, because again, I've never seen any draw information on Irish flat racing. Right? Why is that? People want that.
By the way, so that's horse race pace has full Irish results, and you can analyse the Irish horses on there as well. It's the only one I know that does the pair of them together.
Okay.
So we can see here that the highest 2 stalls. Well, I mean, we know this. This information is in the public domain, but still, the 2 highest stalls would have returned you a profit of over 50 quid for a £1 stake on 230 bets. So that's about 20% return on investment, just over, for betting them. Apart from low draw at Chester at 5 furlongs, probably the most noddy draw stat available to man. Right, so, and the information in here is brilliant. This product costs a huge amount of money. 35 quid, wasn't it? It was 20, it's now 35 quid. There's 16 years of data in there. right? So you can use a subset of that because some course configurations have changed, and that has had a bearing on the track. There are lots of other things you can chart the bias. So I mean, that's a good example there. You can see a very clear bias to one end of the draw. There are a bunch of other analysis tools in there if you want to get your hands really dirty. Professor May also has systems analyzers for the draw, for the flats and jumps. I won't show you those now because of time constraints, but if you want to take a look at those, I think he's got, I think he has demo versions that you can download. Yeah, you can download a free one there, and then if you want to buy it, it's 15. It's 35 quid. He's actually put his prices up, and fair play to him because they're, it's good content. He's got some ebook products that you can take a look at where he's done the number crunching, and you might, if you wanted to do a sire product, for instance, if you took his sire form, you could use that as a start point for 7 quid, right? He's done the first stage of the analysis for you, and then you go and do a bit more digging on that, create a product around that. Okay, so these are good sites. There's loads of ideas here. You can go to the first and second levels of detail. You can create a full product out of them for 30 quid less. So yeah.
Does he update the draw analyzer
Yeah,
as the season goes on?
No, annually.
Just annually?
Yeah.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
okay.
So that's Professor Peter May. I don't know what the J stands for. Some great stuff there. Obviously, most of the focus today is around horse racing. That's how you guys know of me. But there is a wider market here, which is sports betting, right? And there are lots of other niches in the sports betting market that are under that are crying out for products. The football market is a real standout. There are very few football products, and there is a big market for it. I know when I've trialled a not very good football product and I've said it's not very good, it's sold a lot of copies, right? Because people want a football product. So this website, which I was talking to a friend of mine, Gary, and he had this theory about he wanted to back teams who had won either their last 3 home games or their last 3 away games, and he thought that would be a profitable niche, a profitable little system. And he was going to go through all the back issues of the Racing Post to get the odds data out of it and all the rest of it. And he was going to manually do that for like about 5 seasons. And I thought, there must be a website that does this. There must be. I punched in the keywords into Google, football data. And unsurprisingly, the #1 result was a website called footballdata.co.uk, which is, I found this only a couple of months ago. It's a brilliant site. Right, this is the homepage. They've got loads of affiliate stuff on there. Fair play to them. But on the right-hand side, they've got resources, and this odds and results data is fantastic. I mean, it's brilliant, right? You can select which leagues you want from around Europe. You can go by division. So let's have a look at the English football results, and we'll just have a look at, you can get all of them, but we'll just have a look at the Premier League. Hope this is going to work okay. It doesn't just give you the results, as you'll see, it gives you just an absolute pile of other kind of relevant and related data. So if I just do that, right. So you've got the date of the games, home and away teams, full-time score, which was 1-0, home goals, away goals, full-time result, half-time score, half-time result, the ref, if you're interested in card stats. I'm not sure what all of these titles are actually. I think there's a key and there's a notes text. In fact, we won't bother with that now, but suffice it to say that these stats are on things like shots, home shots and away shots, home shots on target and away shots on target, home fouls, away fouls, home cards. Is that card? That might be points for
corners.
Yeah, corners. Yeah, thank you. Home yellows and reds. See, that was a rarity. Howard Webb, no cards. Wow. And here we see you can find a profitable niche, and then it's got the betting, how they bet on the match from Bet365, whoever these other ones are, and they're all in the notes, right? So you can work out the profit and loss for backing or laying, right? You see where we're going with this. At half time, full time, the over and under 2.5 goals, and so on. Okay, so this is, I mean, you can do something with this, can't you? Right? If you wanted to say you wanted to know how Arsenal did at home, excuse me, at home, you just sort it by Arsenal, right? And this is Arsenal's whole season at home, right? If you wanted to total up the home and away goals, just with basic, and I've got very basic Excel skills, you do a subtotal when you say at each change in home team, give me the sum, and I want the sum of the goals, right? I want the sum of the home goals and the away goals. So I just put a tick in there and click OK. And at the bottom, I now can see that Arsenal outscored the opposition 2-1. Villa, it was much closer. Blackburn. Let's have a look. Let's have a look at Newcastle. Just for yaks.
I mean, the Premiership then. Oh, yeah.
See,
24, 29.
but I mean, and that's Newcastle didn't lose it on their away record, because look at Portsmouth, right? That 24, 29, 26, 29. There's nothing in it. But sorry, they didn't lose it on their home record. They lost it on their away record. Anyway, if you wanted to, you can break this down. Just click that, and then you've got the subtotals only, right? So you can see the scorers and the low scorers. Just mucking about with this, right? There's an amazing amount of information in here, and the data's okay, but you have to apply, in order to make a profitable system, you need to know about the odds, right? You need to know the profit and loss. This site's got the odds from about 10 different websites as they were on the day. So you can just do the math on that and find out where the good and the bad is. The world needs more good football betting systems. The world loves Premier League football. This is a product you don't have to sell just to a UK market. There's a global market for this, whereas a lot of this stuff is UK or Ireland based, right? This football stuff has a much wider reach. I intend to do something in the not too distant future. The trouble is, I haven't got time for all the ideas I've got, right? The world is crying out for a good football product, and this will help you create one. That's footballdata.co.uk. In actual fact, if you wanted to get really cute, I can tell you for a fact that the Italians and the Germans love their betting, right? So what do you think you could do with these? I haven't researched it, but I imagine there's no one doing this in those markets, right? So you can create the only football betting product in the German market or the Italian market. The Turks are crazy bettors, right? They love their gambling. You can do it on the Turkish market. Right, exactly. The possibilities with this one free tool. Click that link, and away you go. Just a little bit of playing around with the numbers, and you can really create something nice and highly saleable, and get it out to a market that is absolutely starving, hungry for a product like this. Right, this website is a great opportunity. So that's footballdata.co.uk. Have we got any more free ones, or are we going to have to get our money out now? Oh. So those are the free ones. There are a bunch of premium tools. Timeform, which you may or may not know, has been bought out by Betfair now. And Timeform I, the I apparently stands for interactive, but I think it probably really stands for integrated, because it's this particular product, Timeform I, has built-in interfaces to Betfair. It's expensive. It's £1,000 a year if you want jumps and flat, which only works out at what is it, about 75 quid a month. If you're going to use it, that's fine. Okay, if you trialled it for a month and it worked out really well, great, go with it. But I'm showing you these to show you that there are other tools. I don't necessarily recommend you go out and fork out £1,000 Timeform I, or any of the other tools that are here. I have never used this, so I can't personally vouch for it. I do actually have a disc with a 4-week free trial of Computer Timeform, which I promised myself I'm going to have a look at in the summer, so I'll let you guys know if that's any good. That is another product that is quite high charge. I think that's about 700 quid. Raceform is yet another one. Every time I go to that website it kills my browser, so I'm not going to show you that. The sports book, this is a cheaper option if you want to get a premium form book. It looks interesting. It's 400 quid, so it's about half the price of the others, and 400 quid prorated is actually not a terrible amount of money. Let's see if we can get that one up. It's a very ugly website, and this is a personal hate of mine, when the contact email address is that should be something at thesportsbook.co.uk. It shouldn't be a free email address, right? Don't ever be tempted to put a free email address as a contact address. Use the address from your domain name. Could be contact or support at yourdomainname.com or .ie, but never AOL or Hotmail or Gmail. There's a breakdown of the relative prices, so you can see that the established players are charging pushing £1,000, and the sportsbook is half that, 400. You can have a look at this site, and they've got some freebies that you can look at and see the breakdown. But to be honest, not having used it and only looking at these screenshots, I imagine it isn't that much different from Horse Race Base, right? So and it's going to cost you, if you contributed £20 a month, it's going to cost you at least twice as much. So I definitely would start with something like Horse Race Base or one of the other free products, and then
it's not as neat as Horse Race Base.
yes, it's pretty ugly, isn't it? He's using Fox Pro as well, which Willie, are you familiar with Fox Pro?
I know, I haven't used it.
Right, it's not very good. It's massively out of date now. It's archaic. So how supportable his database will be in the future, I don't know, because it will be supply. I don't think Fox Pro is even supported anymore. I don't know. Looks like it's Microsoft now, so maybe it is, but I would steer clear of that actually. Right, and then the one I use, the Euro Racing Systems Builder. This thing looks ugly as well, but I love it. I mean, if you can get a trial from their website, which hasn't been updated since 1750. I mean, it's a triumph of substance over style, let's say. It's horrible. It's like my website. Maybe that's why I like it. But if you go to the, I think it's probably the products page. You can get a free starter pack, and what that will give you, it gives you the fully functional product, which I'll show you in a second. But with only 2 years data, and the 2 years are from the late 80s, right? So it's not really very useful to you except to see how the product works. And you can see that if you want to buy the full product, it costs 350 quid. Excuse me. And the seasonal updates are 80 quid a season. This is what I use, and now Gavin uses to research trainer track stats. I must admit, I'm going to have a look and see if there's an easier way to do it with Horse Race Base, because one of the limitations of RSB, there aren't many, but one of them is that you can only choose a single trainer at a time, so it's quite labour intensive going through the trainers. Mostly a labour of love, but sometimes a pain in the proverbial. Right, let's have a quick squint at RSB, my dear friend. Programs, that'll be the one. RSB. And again, here's one I partly prepared earlier. Yeah, thank you. Right, why don't we look at that all-weather sellers system? So you've got, it's beautiful interface, isn't it? It hasn't changed since I first got a free trial of this about 10 years ago, and I promised myself for years and years that I would buy it, and I couldn't justify it. And then when I was going to do a product, I thought, if I don't buy it now, I'm never going to do it. So just before I did TTS, I bought this, and I love it. It's ugly, I love it. Right, so let's put some years in. And what I normally do, if I'm researching a system, I leave that one off, and I look at, say, the previous 4 years, because I want to see that the data is not backfitted. So I want at least 1 year where I haven't already seen the results, and then I can kind of test it and make sure that it's still working, because that's another thing. When bookies get wind of systems, right, they still win at broadly the same strike rate, but they pay less on the profit and loss column because more people are aware of them. That pushes the odds down. So, a system that worked 5 years ago may not work now, which is good for you guys, because it means you've always got, you've always got a new angle or a new interpretation of an angle that you can introduce. So let's do that. Those are our years. The variables, there's just a magnificent array of variables on the odds, the race, the horse, the trainer, the jockey, anything you can think of. And the beauty of this is it's got a much more, it's like the digger function in horse race base. I think you're limited to the number of parameters. Can you?
No, minimum two.
Two.
You can go up from two.
Oh, okay.
You can't just pick one digger function at one
Right,
level,
right.
which is a bit there.
Okay. With this one, you can select all of the variables as research parameters, and I'll show you how that works in a second. Just let me put my basic one in. Right, I'm going to choose the all-weather tracks, which are handily in course group D, and they're the AW ones. Right. So that's our first variable. We're on the all-weather. I'm going to choose the all-weather season, which is November to March. How long have I got, Jack? So, all right. So there's a month parameter. So just pop that one in. So I'm going to go November to March, like that. And then I'm going to put in, this is a laying system, so I want low-priced horses if I can. So odds of 7 to 2 or shorter. Okay. And then we'll see how that goes. So if I just ran that, you can see for those 4 years I'd have made a loss at SP of just under 10%. You've got to factor in about 12 to 15% at this price range for the inflation that you lay out on Betfair, right? So actually, this would probably lose at Betfair prices, and minus 10% on here is not enough. Right? You've got to find a bigger number than that. So let's go to the research variables side and just do that, right? Put them all in there. Let's see what works and what doesn't. So we run the research, and pretty quick, right? That was it. And then you can go down. The ones with the asterisk are some convolution that the product owners come up with. I never use them, but if we go to what I consider the more material stuff, these are the all-weather tracks. So you can see, apart from Kempton, the other tracks are much of a muchness in terms of their return. I'm looking at the LSP column because that's the most material one here. I want to know about the horse, right? I want to know, so I can see that 2 to 4 year olds actually underperform the average, right? So maybe I could say, and you can see the sample sizes are pretty big, right? For 2 to 4 year olds, you'd be looking at over 4,000 runners for those 4 years, so 1,000 a year, right? So we've got a big sample size to condense to, and we can be confident that we're dealing with a material sample size as well, that this data is relevant. Okay, so those 2 to 4 year olds, that's something I've made a note of, and we're going to go back and factor that in. Horse interval time is very interesting. You see those that ran very recently, the last 4 days. If you back those in, if you back those on Betfair, you make money. You make about 10% just backing horses under those parameters that ran previously 1, 2, or 3 days ago, right? So that's interesting. And if you look at the duration since they last ran, it's not really a clear profile. It's a bit all over the shop. So I tend to think that's not very reliable data and leave it alone. Horse sex I find is always interesting. You see the fillies versus the colts, right? The boys lose about 7%. Ignore that black one because it's a tiny sample size, it's irrelevant, right? But the colts and geldings in open races, they lose 7%. The girls lose about 24% on profit, right? So we want to deal with the girls here. We want to lay the ladies. Excuse me. Let's factor those 2 variables in. So we're going to go back to horse age in years 2 to 4. What I don't know is how the girls at 2 to 4 perform, but let's work with that. And we'll say we're just interested in fillies, either in fillies only races or in open races. Okay. And what we do, I mean, we can just run the system there, and we see now we're showing, you know, I mean, you're getting. Remember, this is running only November to March, so that's 5 months, and you're getting 300. Obviously, there's more weather now, so you get 350 a day. So that's 350 a season. So that's 150. About 2 a day, right? About 2 a day, and the return on investment is minus 18%. But a bit of a worry is that more recently, you know, there's 1 year where it was terrible, and more recently, it's, you know, you'd probably scratch a profit on Betfair at that rate. So we would go back to Betfair to the research then, and we'd go on from where we were and look if we could pare it down more, but still in a material way. So I don't look at the info. That's the info from the newspapers. I don't really look at the jockeys. I look at the month sometimes. I look how far they were beaten last time. A horse that was only just beaten is often over bet. But actually, in this case, we can see if they were beaten 2 lengths or more, that was more interesting. So we'll factor that in a second as well. All right, so we'll put that in. We're very near lunch because I appreciate that it's been quite a lot of me talking. And we'll see how that does, what difference that makes. Right, see now we're looking at about 1 a day, right? So you've got low product, low prices, 1 horse a day, losing on average 22%, which is going to show you a profit of about 10% on Betfair if you're laying them. Let's we think that's okay, right? That's you can probably work with that. So if you put in last year's to test, this is where it's going to show a big black profit. This is live. So let's see what happens now. Please, God. I knew that. See, like I said, but that's a really good barometer, right? Because if you put them all in and you're looking at the bottom line and it's showing you this 18%, you might think, okay, we can go with that. I hope that turned out better. But the bottom line is that that's a true independent test of the validity of the data, right? Rather than looking at the 5 years without finding something that you think and then testing it on a year that you haven't already looked at, right? That's a good test. Didn't work out, but so I now know I can't go with that product. Rather than putting it out there, a bunch of people having a load of losers, and me not being very well liked, and my next product not being very well received. Okay, so it's a good way to do the research. That's my dear friend, Racing Systems Builder. The way we do trainer track stats is we start with the Racing Post, look at the top 300 trainers, we look at the top 300 trainers, and then we come here and we put them all in here, trainer by trainer like that, and we put the odds parameters to up to 14 to 1. We put the seasons, the months of the season in, and we crunch the numbers, and it takes a lot of time. It's you know, it's quite arduous, and I imagine that David's going to tell me you should have used horse race base. You'd have done it in 20
We'll have a
minutes.
look on it now. We'll have a look.
We'll do it later. We're a bit short on time, but that's definitely a note I'm taking away, is to see if we can, because it's very labour intensive the way we do TTS. Any questions on RSB?
What's the cost again, Matt?
It's 350 quid for the flat, and the same for the jumps, and they'll give you a whopping discount of £70 if you buy both. In my opinion, it's worth it. I mean, if you're going to do a product based on research, you can really drill into the detail with this tool. I don't know enough about horse race base. I'm quite impressed with what I've seen of it. I don't know enough about it to say.
It's all based on the internet as well. It's not a
Right, it's not
a
download.
download.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
all based actually on the net.
Sure. Definitely, I would start with horse race base. I would get the free trial copy of this, so you can play around with it, see if it's got, see if it works for you, and depending on the value proposition of the one versus the other, you might want to invest. I love it, but I may love it less after I've got to grips with
So once
horse
you
race
bought your
base.
700 or 628 quid, it's just paying for these £79 updates.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So that is RSB, and I think. See that brilliant lead in? I mean, you can't buy that, can you? Let's take a break for a bite to eat and a comfort break and a chit chat.